To be between styles or between subcults is a life crisis, and the people of the future spend more time in this condition searching for styles than do the people of the past or present. Altering his identity as he goes, Super Industrial Man traces a private trajectory through a world of colliding subcults. This is the social mobility of the future, not simply movement from one economic class to another, but from one tribal grouping to another. Restless movement from subcult to ephemeral subcult describes the arc of his life. There are plenty of reasons for this restlessness. It is not merely that the individual's psychological needs change more often than in the past. The subcults also change. For these and other reasons, as subcult membership becomes ever more unstable, the search for a personal style, which will become increasingly intense, even frenetic in the decades to come. Again and again, we shall find ourselves bitter or bored, vaguely dissatisfied with the way things are, upset, in other words, with our pre-ascent style. At the moment, we begin once more to search for a new principle around which to organize our choices. We arrive again at the moment of superdecision. At this moment, if anyone studied our behavior closely, he would find a sharp increase in what might be called the transience index. The rate of turnover of things, places, people, organizational and informational relationships spurts upwards. We get rid of that silk dress or tie, the old Tiffany lamp, that horror of a claw-footed Victorian end table, all those symbols of our links with the subcult of the past. We begin, bit by bit, to replace them with new items emblematic of our new identification. The same process occurs in our social lives. The throughput of people speeds up. We begin to reject ideas we have held, or to explain them or rationalize them in new ways. We are suddenly free of all the constraints that our subcult or style imposed on us. A transience index would prove a sensitive indicator of those moments in our lives when we are most free, but at the same time most lost. It is this interval that we exhibit the wild oscillation engineers call searching behavior. We are most vulnerable now to the messages of new subcults, to the claims and counterclaims that rend the air. We lean this way and that, a powerful new friend, a new fad or idea, a new political movement, some new hero rising from the depths of the mass media. All these strike us with particular force at such a moment. We are more open, more uncertain, more ready for someone or some group to tell us what to do, how to behave. Decisions, even little ones, come harder. This is not accidental. To cope with the press of daily life, we need more information about far more trivial matters than when we were locked into a firm lifestyle. And so we feel anxious, pressured, alone, and we move on. We choose to allow ourselves to be sucked into a new subcult. We put on a new style. As we rush towards super-industrialism, therefore, we find people adopting and discarding lifestyles at a rate that would have staggered the members of any previous generation. For the lifestyle itself has become a throwaway item. This is no small or easy matter. It accounts for the much lamented loss of commitment that is so characteristic of our time. As people shift from subcult to subcult, from style to style, they are conditioned to guard themselves against the inevitable pain of disaffiliation. They learn to armor themselves against the sweet sorrow of parting. The extremely devout Catholic who throws over his religion and plunges into the life of a new leftist activist, then throws himself into some other cause or movement or subcult, cannot go on doing so forever. He becomes, to adapt Graham Greene's term, a burnt-out case. He learns from past disappointment never to lay too much of his old self on the line. And so, even when he seemingly adopts a subculture style, he withholds some part of himself. He conforms to the group's demands and revels in the belongingness that it gives him. But this belongingness is never the same as it once was, and secretly he remains ready to defect at a moment's notice. What this means is that even when he seems most firmly plugged in to his group or tribe, he listens in the dark of night to the shortwave signals of competing tribes. In this sense, his membership in the group is shallow. He remains constantly in a posture of non-commitment. And without strong commitment to the values and styles of some group, he lacks the explicit set of criteria that he needs to pick his way through the burgeoning jungle of overchoice. The super-industrial revolution, consequently, forces the whole problem of overchoice to a qualitatively new level. It forces us now to make choices not merely among lamps and lampshades, but among lives, not among lifestyle components, but among whole lifestyles. This intensification of the problem of overchoice presses us towards orgies of self-examination, soul-searching, and introversion. It confronts us that most popular of contemporary illnesses, the identity crisis. Never before have masses of men faced a more complex set of choices. The hunt for identity arises not out of the supposed choicelessness of mass society, but precisely from the plenitude and complexity of our choices. Each time we make a style choice, a super decision, each time we link up with some particular subcultural group or groups, we make some change in our self-image. We become, in some sense, a different person, and we perceive ourselves as different. Our old friends, those who knew us in some previous incarnation, raise their eyebrows. They have a harder and harder time recognizing us, and in fact, we experience increasing difficulty in identifying with or even sympathizing with our own past selves. The hippie becomes the straight arrow executive. The executive becomes the skydiver without noting the exact steps of transition. In the process, he discards not only the externals of his style, but many of the underlying attitudes as well. And one day the question hits him like a splash of cold water in a sleep-sodden face: what remains? What is there of self or personality in this sense of continuous, durable internal structure? For some, the answer is very little, for they are no longer dealing in self, but in what might be called serial selves. Well, we're reaching 10 minutes, but I think that that covers it pretty well. I hope this puts a few things into perspective. This was written in 1970, by the way. So, that's something to keep in mind. Okay.